Why did the restaurant on the moon have bad reviews?
I don't know why.
Because it had no atmosphere. I'm Josh Vodasek.
And I'm Brian Glassett.
And on this episode, we're going to talk about the dearMoon art project. The biggest, craziest, most dangerous, most awe-inspiring art project the world has ever seen.
Brought to you by the New Energy Industry.
The website is dearmoon.earth. Again, dearmoon.earth. This is the greatest, biggest, and most insanely audacious art project the world has ever seen.
You're really not exaggerating with that. I mean, it is out of this world, literally. And before we get into it, I just want to comment on how cool it is that their URL is .earth.
dearmoon.earth.
It kind of brings home the fact that this is something that is starting on Earth, but is going to extend further beyond that.
It's like a love letter to the moon. dearmoon.earth.
Yeah. Right. It's a very succinct love letter to the moon.
Which is actually a nice way to kind of lead into the project here. A love letter. It's an art project, a heart-centered kind of initiative. dearMoon, what is this project? Brian, go ahead and just elaborate a little bit, 1,000-mile perspective, overview of what this dearmoon.earth project is.
Yeah, so the dearMoon project is a really amazing moment in the life of humanity. It's an opportunity for artists to leave planet Earth and to bring back with them, when they return, their experiences of outer space, and even more specifically, our dear, lovely moon that has inspired us for millennia. It's that thing in the sky that tugs on us, like the tide, but it really pulls on our heartstrings too. And I think it's a really amazing opportunity that this fellow is creating. We'll talk about him, the founder of the project. He's creating this opportunity not just for scientific exploration of space, but for the heart of humanity, for the artistic spirit of humanity to explore space, and then to empower artists of different media digesting or metabolizing this unique and deeply moving and beautiful experience of a flight to the moon, metabolizing that in an artistic way, not just in a scientific way. And it's opening up humanity's creativity in entirely new ways.
Yeah, that was a really great big picture perspective of the overall project. I'll give you my quick rundown of the overview, big picture style. dearmoon.earth was developed by a Japanese billionaire. You can refer to him as MZ.
Right, he goes by MZ, and his full name is Musaku Maezawa.
Yeah, MZ is a Japanese billionaire. He started out not that way. However, through various business initiatives, became a billionaire. And with his now net worth, he decided to purchase all of the tickets to a rocket that it will be one of the biggest rockets ever created. However, this rocket doesn't even exist yet. He purchased the future tickets that then will take him and I believe up to 7 artists, and there'll probably be a few additional crew members, off of Earth and around the moon in a very exciting, probably 11-day journey around the moon, seeing the Earth very, very far away, seeing the moon very far away, traveling through outer space for a week and a half with artists, simply to experience the beauty of the moment, the beauty of reality, the beauty of our solar system, the beauty of the galaxy, of space, of every other kind of thing that can be awakened with this experience, much of which we can't even foresee, which is the beauty of this art project.
Yeah, that's really one of the most intriguing parts of all this, is that we don't really know what will be created. It's going to be so interesting to see how each of the artists metabolize this in their own medium. And, one of the things that comes to mind immediately when we're talking about dearMoon is this idea of the overview effect, right? And I know that you're familiar with this, Josh, and maybe our listeners are too. The overview effect is this change that happens in consciousness, in human awareness, when you're up in orbit or above the Earth. There is a moment, or there's an experience of taking in the entire Earth below you as one whole, without those boundaries of nations and all of that. Seeing it as one whole, this is something that can profoundly change people and change them in a direction toward more unity, a feeling of more unity with all of life on Earth. And this is the sort of change that, we talked about in our first episode, how we're talking about paradigm shifts, worldview shifts on this podcast. And this is a documented effect, the overview effect, which simply by viewing the Earth, we can shift our inner life toward more peacefulness, more inclusiveness, more unity with life. And I think that is something that we'll see reflected in the artwork that's created. And I really hope that in the time that we're alive here on planet Earth, you and me, buddy, that we'll have the opportunity to experience that overview effect. And
we're going to space.
Oh, we're going to space.
Oh, you rest assured, my friend, we're going to space.
And it's so exciting to me that more and more, we're just at the very beginning of this, but more and more, bigger numbers of people are going to be able to have that experience. And that is going to be, I hope, and I think, a major part of the global shift in consciousness.
Absolutely.
So that's a cool thing that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, the overview effect. I remember when I first learned about that a few years ago, astronauts reporting this kind of unanimous experience of awakening, if you will, when seeing the Earth from such a broad perspective of outer space. Awakening to the unity of the planet, the collective consciousness. We can talk about it in many different ways, but this overview effect is something that I just want to experience firsthand myself. I'm pretty excited about one day in the future having the opportunity to travel to the moon, to Mars. Why not? I enjoy getting on to a 747 and flying across the country or across the ocean. I think those experiences are spectacular. Some of the nuances of air travel aren't so great. However, you can rest assured that this dearMoon project, where they're kind of focusing on sending artists into space in order for the artists to create something when they return, something really awe-inspiring, which is great. However, I kind of see the bigger point, which I believe is more we're all the artist observers of this project. I know we're not physically going to be in the ship traveling along with them around with our own eyes, looking out the portholes of the spaceship, seeing the moon up close and seeing the Earth from far away. However, I'm pretty sure that they're going to have it retrofitted with a lot of cameras, and it's going to be a very live, in-your-face, interactive experience. It's not going to happen until the scheduled date. The optimistic, if all things go right, scheduled date is 2023. Right now, we just began 2019. So we got a couple years, not too many, but in that time, a lot has to happen. But when it does, when we get to that point of technological development, when this project is actually possible and all of the technology for these ideas are actually ready to launch, I believe it's going to be an interactive internet experience that is going to awaken millions of people around the Earth in a very overview effect, awe-inspiring, enlightening way. And that's really what kind of makes me most excited about this dearMoon.Earth project. Bunch of other things too, but that's the main point.
Yeah. I love that. I totally love that. I really appreciate what you said. Essentially, we're all going on this journey with the artists, and it'll be interesting, like you're saying, to see what sort of live experience they're going to provide, or like that. And they did say that they're bringing a photographer probably, and
I mean, by that
that'll
time,
be one of the artists.
by that time, they may have live in-your-face virtual reality sets that everybody can just put on their face.
You're right. It's not
and it'll be this
too
amazing
far-fetched
experience without the gravitational effects.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things that this reminds me of is MZ was talking about in this video where Elon Musk sort of introduces MZ as the first, private citizen to go into space with SpaceX. MZ says that the work that the artists are going to do is going to be a legacy for humankind. Like, this is a really beautiful landmark moment, and the art that they create is going to it'll be an artifact of this moment where we're stepping out into this great beyond. And these artists and, the crew and everyone, the engineers that are making this happen, everyone who's a part of this is bringing us over that threshold. And just like you're saying, with all the connectivity, with all the technology that's available to us, it's not just going to be those people that are on there. All of us are going on this journey.
We're all going.
And it really makes a big step forward for all of humanity. And it's deeply, deeply beautiful and inspiring. Can't wait to see what it looks like.
It's going to be a pretty grand, eye-opening, paradigm shift-like experience, and I'm pretty excited.
Definitely.
This being a landmark moment in history, one of the last time a private citizen was going to travel into outer space was actually back in 1986. It was a high school teacher that was selected by the Reagan administration, Christina.
Right. Yeah. I believe her name was Christa McAuliffe.
Yes, that's correct. Christa. And she trained for 6 months to fly on the Challenger mission. And then on a really cold Florida morning, the seals in the space shuttle were slightly too cold. And upon launch, the entire shuttle exploded, killing everyone instantaneously on live national television. And that was a eye-opening experience, if you will, back in the 80s that shifted the collective consciousness kind of away from space exploration, space travel. And so now it's time a private citizen was going to travel into outer space with the whole public, America and the world watching. And it ended in absolute disaster.
Yeah.
Not to laugh at the topic, but, disastrous.
Yes.
So now,
yes.
Nearly 40 years later, we're now looking at a project that is the next kind of private individual going to space on a spaceship that's not even created yet, with the risks being, very high. By no means is it a certainty that this mission is going to be successful. It could end in disaster, which would be devastating. However, it could also be a very glorious mission where this rocket launches them into space and then the first stage re-lands epically back on the launch pad, and then the crew cabin floats around the moon over the next couple of days, sending us awesome, majestic footage, and the artists had this great experience, and they come back, and then the whole world is shifted forevermore in a more overview effect type of way. I obviously am hoping for the latter.
You and me both, buddy. Yeah, but it's a really great point that a lot of the appetite for manned spaceflight or human spaceflight was dampered by that tragedy. And that was actually, that was before I was born. I was born in '88, and I grew up wanting to be an astronaut, but always in all the books I had on space, there was a section on the Challenger. And there is a real set of risks here. And, when I was watching the video just recently on the dearMoon project, Elon Musk was asked about that, and he spoke frankly about it. He didn't give any assurances, but said frankly that they are optimistic and, they have some of the best engineers in the world working at SpaceX, but we all need to sort of be aware that it's a very treacherous journey that they're embarking on, and I think there is a level of that, a real need for respect for the dangers of this journey.
Yeah.
And I think that SpaceX is completely aware of that and is working to make it as smooth, as efficient, as safe as possible. And
let's
all we can do is be optimistic.
Let's put ourselves in MZ's shoes for a moment and imagine ourselves now in probably mid-40s, I'm not entirely sure, with a large net worth, thinking to himself, I love art, as well as many other things, I'm sure. However, I want to inspire the entire planet and do something extremely audacious, legendarily dangerously audacious. And I'm going to go purchase these tickets to a spaceship that doesn't exist yet and create this awesome project initiative around the biggest, craziest, most dangerous, most awe-inspiring art project the world has ever seen. Being something of an artist myself, I just think that's so cool. If I am ever blessed with having the amount of financial energy as MZ, I can only hope to have such aptitude for risk, as well as a desire to inspire everything in this awe-inspiring way. I'm almost losing my words talking about it. It's just so inspiring and emotional, and we're going to be covering this many times throughout the new energy industry as the months develop, as the projects develop, as the different stages of the rockets develop with SpaceX, as well as other rocket companies within the industry.
Yeah, those are some really big shoes, and it's fun to kind of put myself in those shoes, those multi-billion-dollar shoes. And you're right, it's legendary, the audacity of this project, the aspiration that comes with this project. And it's a really wonderful example of humanity in its most beautiful state. Like, we are being bold, and we are using our technological and intellectual prowess to create something of beauty. Not just something that's practical, or, we're not just going up there to mine moon rocks and, of course, extending our reach into resource streams outside of planet Earth is probably beneficial for, our economy, which is sapping the Earth dry. But outside of all of that practical stuff, MZ is doing something deeply, beautifully, legendarily human in that it's about beauty. It's about the experience. It's about being there and going beyond, and the human element of that. And, you touched on that, and I just, like you said, I'm losing my words a bit because I am utterly inspired.
Yeah, well, while I was watching the launch presentation at the SpaceX headquarters when Elon Musk was talking about this towards the end, resisting tears, almost saying how much this project has done to restore his faith in humanity. Just for someone to step up and say, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and let's do this. That restoration of faith in humanity is not to be taken lightly. I take it very seriously, personally.
Yeah, I resonate a lot with that. Something that he said earlier in that video kind of resonates with that. He was talking about, becoming a spacefaring civilization. It's this broad vision, right? It's this thing that can bring us into the future with some hope. And he said something to the effect of, it's something that can get you up out of bed in the morning, In the state of the world, there's so many things that could keep you in bed under the covers. But, this is something to be excited about being human for,
Similarly,
and it really...
I mean, we naturally have that perspective. You wanted to be an astronaut ever since you were a child. But not everybody thinks that way. A lot of people will think, why would you spend all this money to waste it when there's so many issues on Earth that could be addressed with that amount of money? Hundreds of millions, billions of dollars to go fly around the moon and come back? big freaking deal. A lot of people will surely say that, and they're
Sure.
justified in doing so.
Sure.
However, to kind of address that point, I would like to point out the fact that this is first and foremost an art project, absolutely, initially. But in order for the art project to be successful, a huge amount of technological development has to happen in order for SpaceX to further develop the formerly known BFR.
The big bleep rocket, or Big Falcon rocket,
the
as
now
it was known.
the now Starship.
BFR.
Anyway, the development of that technology is only doing one thing, really, and it's allowing humanity to have a better grasp into our surrounding environment in the solar system. Meaning, the amount of resources that could be mined on the moon and on Mars and other meteorites within easily accessible distances are astronomical compared to the amount of resources that could be sustainably mined on Earth. So the notion of moving pretty much all heavy industry and mining initiatives to the solar system and designating Earth as, residential recreational zoning only, I think that's a future that is plausible if we look on a broad enough time span. And this one step, this dearMoon project from 2019 to hopefully 2023, even if it ends up being 2025, whatever, is only a blip in the actual big picture of what's happening here on our technological development and capability to then address all of those issues on the planet of industrial pollution and energy consumption and all of the unsustainable practices that are not only hurting the planet, they're hurting the economy, they're hurting societies and populations around the planet. These issues are going to be addressed in a very large way by expanding humanity's reach into space. So that's what I would have to say to the individuals who say, what the heck is all of this for?
There's definitely some of them out there, right?
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the point you just made. Absolutely. It's what came to mind as you were describing it is like, it's almost like it's like the attention grabbing sentence at the beginning of an essay. It's like, hey, look, we're going to freaking inspire the whole world and also set the conditions to, explore our neighborhood and do those things like heavy industry and, all these more scientific and practical kind of steps forward. But absolutely, this is sort of the first step out, and it's an inspiring step. It's something that's going to show the way forward. And before that step is even taken, as you were saying, all of the technology that's going to support industry and space and all of that is being developed for this art project.
Yeah.
And it also reminds me of the Renaissance, actually, and how the Renaissance was essentially driven by large investments by extremely rich merchants who wanted art to be made in ways that it hadn't been made for since the classical era in Greece or what have you. So there was, art is what drove us forward into more and more richness of the human experience and more discoveries of technologies and of laws of nature and all of this. So we may look back in 50, 60 years and see dearMoon in a similar light, that art is what brought us out there. And MZ making his down payment, which is not a small down payment to help
couple hundred million probably.
Yeah, probably so. He wasn't forthcoming with the number, but Elon did say he made the down payment, and that is helping us to build the BFR, which is now called, I think, the SHR, which is the rocket. So I love the point that you made. I think there are enough resources, if we get real with ourselves, to deal with both. And becoming a spacefaring civilization, it's driving a lot of innovation and also if we're going to get a little bit morbid for a moment, it's a safety plan. I mean, there are so many different ways that, unfortunately, we could end life on Earth as we know it at any given moment with the technology that's available to us.
Well, not only we, but natural events in the solar system could as well.
Exactly.
There's multiple variables.
Right, multiple variables. Human-caused calamity, natural-caused calamity. So Elon made that point, in his presentation. This is also an insurance policy for humanity, to become a multi-planetary civilization. So, God forbid, something like a giant calamity did occur.
A solar flare that vaporized our atmosphere instantly.
Right.
Totally plausible. An asteroid impact. That's never happened before.
Yeah. That probably won't happen. No super volcanoes or anything like that.
And Elon Musk has talked about that pretty much ever since he's been talking about SpaceX, is the importance of making humanity multiplanetary and being able to diversify, hedge our bet on ourselves.
Yeah.
But that I kind of wanted to give a quick rundown on the development of this rocketry technology. I know the new energy industry, we really want to talk about those futuristic technologies, but rocketry currently and the amount it has developed in such a short period of time is very noteworthy and pretty revolutionary, because not too long ago, rocketry was cool. We can get to, not too far away for a huge amount of money because every single rocket was wasted and scrapped. Hundreds of millions of dollars every single rocket. However, Elon Musk and SpaceX and now other individuals in the industry pioneered the technology of developing their own rockets from scratch. At the beginning of SpaceX, when they first started, their first 3 big missions all exploded in disastrous failure.
Right.
Barely was able to scrap together enough money to patch up a 4th launch, which miraculously succeeded, and then SpaceX was granted a job that then funded the further development of their rockets. And that was just them getting started. Since then, they've developed rocket reusability, how rockets shoot up and then come back and land themselves, which is pretty spectacular. Imagine balancing a pencil on your finger and landing it nicely on a launch pad. That's not an exact kind of comparison, but to give you a scope of what these rockets are doing in just launching a satellite, if you imagine a pencil, a number 2 pencil, launching up over the Empire State Building and then very precisely landing itself on a shoebox.
Wow, those terms, it is mind-boggling.
That's the perspective on just, the Falcon now and their missions of just delivering payloads to space and stuff. However, that technology has been developed by first, developing the hopper that they just tested their, algorithms and smart learning technologies that now give the computers on board the spaceships the intelligence to control their rocketries and their atmospheric fins to land on nearly pinpoint precision. They believe that they will be able to land rockets on the actual mounting brackets that it was originally mounted to before it took off, which is amazing. That's the accuracy of this amazing landing rocket reusability technology.
Really blows my mind. I mean, what?
So that's more or less the topic of this episode. We really wanted to cover the nitty-gritty of the dearMoon project and talk about what it's going to do personally and industrially and consciously and planetarily.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining us this month. We hope that this was inspiring and interesting to you, and we hope that you do check out SpaceX and dearMoon.Earth. If you want to help out with the new energy industry, if you want to become a founder or an affiliate and help us change the world, you know what to do. TheNewEnergyIndustry.com.
TheNewEnergyIndustry.com. I'm Josh Vodosek, and I guess you could follow me on Instagram. I'd rather you go to the website.
And I'm Brian Glassett, and you can reach me at technoyogi.com. That's TKNO yogi.com.
Until next time, this has been episode 2 of The New Energy Industry, signing off.
Signing off.
Thanks
Take
again.
care out there.
Bye.
Brought to you by the New Energy Industry.
Beep, beep, boop, boop, boop.
Beep, 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 beep.